Hi, I'm Jordan from Kettner Creative. In this video, we're going to show you how to set up the Behringer Xenyx Q1202 USB audio console. Now, before we can plug anything into this audio console, we need to make sure that it's back reset to the way it came from the factory. So we are going to leave the main output at 0 here. So if it's currently turned down, go ahead and bring that up to 0. We're going to turn the compressor down. The dark blue knobs, the EQ, should be straight up in the 12 o'clock position, so we want to reset all those. The effects send can be turned all the way down. We want to make sure that any of these clicky buttons are all turned up. They're all clicked in the up position. The balance or pan should be straight up, not left or right. The level knobs can all be turned down. If there's any other buttons that are pressed down, make sure they're up. Phantom power can be off. And then, of course, turn the gain for each of the XLR inputs down as well. So now we have a mixer that's relatively reset. Before we plug things in, let's just quickly talk about the outputs. On the back of this audio console, there is a USB output and input. It's the same cable, so one jack does both. It sends left and right out of the mixer, and then you can also bring signal in. We'll show you how to deal with that near the end of the video. Also, there are these main outputs here, so this will be the stereo mix of the audio console. The same stereo mix is what goes out the USB cable. If you need to convert that to an XLR cable, you will need a cable or adapter like this. That is a TRS, so this is a balanced cable. It goes tip, ring, sleeve. It needs to have 2 marks on the sleeve here of this 1/4 inch cable. If it just has 1, this will not work for you. It might work, but it'll just be unbalanced. So you really need one of these. Again, we do have pricing and a link to this if you're looking to buy one on Amazon or something like that. We have a link in the description below. Then you convert that to XLR. This will work for any of the main outputs, the control room outputs, or the effects send. It'll work the same, and then you can convert it to XLR and plug it into whatever speaker or monitor or whatever you're trying to do. For control room outputs, it is common just to use 1/4 inch cable to go into your studio monitors, but this is a great way, and this is probably the best way to run into something like a powered speaker. Now for this video, we already have the USB output connected to the computer. We do have separate videos with this audio console showing how to record and multi-track record and live stream. So please do check those videos out as well. So again, just make sure that the main mix is up to 0, and then we can plug in our first microphone. The first microphone we're going to plug in is a Shure SM58. It's quite possibly, and it should be, the most popular microphone in the world. If you're looking to buy a first microphone, you can't go wrong with the Shure SM58. It sounds great, and it will take an absolute beating. If you're looking for something that you can just throw in your backpack, this thing will take a total beating for you and last forever. So to set your gain on this, which is the first thing that we need to do, we're going to turn the level up, and then we're going to bring the gain up. Now the meter on this audio console isn't very good, but do just keep an eye on that meter as I'm speaking and raising the gain on this audio channel here. So we want, with this, since there's not a lot of detail there, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to 0, check, 1, 2, 3, 4, until it hits 0 there, and then we're going to back it off by about 10%. When you're using the USB output on this audio console, you can hear this microphone now being recorded by the computer. When you use this audio console with the USB output, you never want to go above 0. If you go above 0, you will experience clipping and you will have audio degradation. It'll sound really digital if you go above that 0 mark, so you don't want to do that. If you're home recording, you can be really conservative. If this meter had more detail here, you'd want to be recording somewhere around -18 to -12. If you're live streaming, you want to cheat it as close to that 0 mark as you can, because you don't have the opportunity to boost your levels after the fact. You're live streaming, but you don't want to go over 0. Now, one thing to note on this audio console is that this main mix fader does also control the USB output on this console, so keep that in mind as well. That's not common on all audio consoles of this size. Now, as I mentioned, you don't want to go over 0. So one tool that we have to help narrow the dynamic range. So that means that we want to make the quiet things a little bit louder, and we want to make the loud things a little bit quieter. We can use a compressor. The compressor on the Behringer console here will add a little bit of gain, and it also reduces the threshold, and anything that exceeds that threshold will get compressed. So you're narrowing that dynamic range. This is great if you're live streaming or recording a podcast and you have really animated guests and you don't want to be riding the volume knob throughout the performance or the recording. But the downside is if you're working with someone who's very talented, narrowing the dynamic range it needs to be done tastefully. You can overdo it to the point that you're basically choking them and they don't sound like they don't have musical talent, and it doesn't sound well produced or well delivered. So do be aware of the risks of over compressing. It's a great tool, but you don't want to overuse it. To use the compressor, it's a one knob compressor. So like I said, with the turn of one knob, you're adding gain, reducing threshold, and adding a compression ratio. I would generally never take a one knob compressor over half. Usually I use it just shy of half, something like that. Next, let's talk about the EQ. The high is at 12K, so that means if we turn it up, you should hear it get nice and crispy up top. And if you turn it down, it'll just level it off. If you're getting audio feedback in a live environment, turning the high down to something like this is a good place to start to try reduce some of that feedback, especially if you're in something like a gym. Sometimes in gyms, the feedback is more closer to the mid band here, so you can turn that down. And if you need a little bit more vocal presence, you can try turning it up. On the low end, I always do some type of a low cut on a vocal mic, and another tool that you can do to do that is the low cut button, which is a high pass filter. On the Behringer console here, this comes in at 75K, or 75 Hertz, sorry. So you can click that down and that'll just roll off the low end for you while you leave this flat. A couple notes about EQ, less is more. And also, if you make the same move on all three knobs, if you go like this, turn them all down, that will not effectively change the tone of the microphone. What you've done here is you've turned down all the frequencies, so you basically just turn down the volume of the microphone. If you find that you're making the same move on all three bands of EQ, put them back and try again. If you can't hear a difference, put it back to flat. With EQ, generally speaking, less is more if you're just getting started until you really get a feel for what these knobs do and get a little bit more experience. But generally, if you're making a big move like that, where you're changing it about 25%, there's something else wrong in terms of mic positioning or something like that. Next, we have the effects send. What this does is if you turn this up, it comes all the way down this strip here, and then it will come through the effects master, so you can turn that up, and it will kick it out through this effects send. From here, you can send it to a monitor channel, you can do a mix minus setup, or you can send it to a reverb unit and bring it back in through channels, one of the stereo channels here. Next, we have the pan knob. What this does is it pans it from left to right. You can see on the meter, we just panned it all the way left. You should be able to hear this as well. You can see there it's on the left side. And here we panned it all the way right. You can see on the meter, again, went to the right side. The level, we always would try to keep this level at unity. This means that the gain is coming straight through and it will be unaffected by the level knob. That's where you get the best volume to noise ratio. Obviously, if you need to turn it up or down, go for it. But just know that on some consoles, if you set this and it's at 0, by turning this up, it will change it so it goes above 0 or below 0, whatever you do with that knob. I always try to keep these at 0 or unity when possible. Next, we're going to connect the Audio Technica AT2020 microphone. This is a great entry-level condenser microphone. Condenser microphones are notorious for having a bit more sensitivity. A lot of people like them. They're not as good in noisy environments because due to their sensitivity, they will inherently accept more noise. They're like a dynamic microphone like the Shure SM58 that we just used is a little bit better at noise rejection if you're around things like keyboards or background hum, or if you're working in a warehouse like we are. So on the Audio Technica AT2020, a couple notes, there is a front and a back, and you speak into the side of the microphone, not the top of the microphone like we were just doing. Also, since this is a condenser microphone, we can turn on the phantom power. This microphone will not work without phantom power. To show you that, I'm just going to turn the level up right now, and then turn the gain up. And you can see here with the gain fully maxed, the level at unity, the meter's not moving at all. So I'm going to turn that down. Now we're going to turn phantom power on. Now a lot of people are nervous about phantom power when you're mixing condenser microphones and dynamic microphones. Think of the term phantom power. For 99% of microphones, you can look it up if you want per microphone, whether or not it will hurt it or not. But for 99% of microphones, unless it's a ribbon microphone or an unbalanced dynamic microphone, which are both very rare, it's a phantom. This microphone doesn't see it or hear it, is not affected by it. The power is just there. The phantom power will not improve a dynamic microphone, but it will turn on a condenser microphone. So there's some information about that. So now that this is on, we're going to turn the level up to unity there, or 0. And again, we're going to increase the volume on the gain until it comes all the way up to 0. Right there, it's bumping off 0, so I'm just going to turn it down just a little bit to make sure that we're nice and safe. Again, if you do want to add a compressor, you can do that. You can see that now we're touching off 0 because it is adding gain. So I'm just going to bring the gain down just a little bit. And we're going to use the EQ here just so you can hear what a condenser microphone sounds like when we bring the EQ on the high end up. It should get nice and crispy. This will kind of take some of that crispiness out if it's overly crispy or if you're getting a lot of mouth noise or something like that. And then on the mid range here, you can have some vocal presence. And on the low end, we're going to put that low cut on. We're not going to send this to an effects send. We're not going to pan it. We're just going to leave the level where it is. And that's how you connect a condenser microphone to the Behringer Xenyx Q1202 USB audio console. Now, the next microphone that we're going to show you is the Shure SM7B. The Shure SM7B notoriously requires a lot of gain. So we're going to plug this in here. Again, like the other microphones, we're going to put the level at 0. And we're going to bring the preamp up and we're going to try to get to 0. You can see here that the gain is all the way to 10 and the level is at unity. You can get more volume out of this by turning the level up. But as you can see here, so there we got to 0 there. But you should be hearing a pretty good amount of hiss depending on the headphones or how you're listening to this. I'm just going to turn it down just a little bit. And that's because anytime the preamp's at 10 out of 10 and you're adding more level than 0 or unity, you're just making everything work too hard, and that's when you're going to get noisy preamps and a lot of hiss. So one workaround for that, I'm just going to turn this off, unplug it, is to use an inline preamp like the CloudLifter. So I'm going to plug this in. What this CloudLifter does is it only works on dynamic microphones. Now remember, a dynamic microphone like the Shure SM58 does not inherently require phantom power. So what this box does is it will take phantom power and it will use that 48 volts of phantom power to add more gain to the channel, somewhere in the range of about 20 to 25 decibels, depending on the model. There's tons of different brands that make these things. So plug that in. I'm going to turn phantom power off. I always like turning phantom power off when I connect a device that needs it. So you can see that the light just went out. I'm going to plug it in and then turn it back on. There is like a 1 in a million chance that you'll get like a little arc there and you can fry something. So just be aware of that. Now we're going to bring the level up to 0 or unity. We're going to increase the preamp gain here. And now you can see that we're getting much more level for much less gain. Still, we're at about 75%, where last time we were completely maxed and had to add more on the level. So here we can keep the level at unity. The preamp is at 75%, so we have a lot more volume. We can get a little bit more gain. Oh, you can see there where you hit 0, so let's go back it down a little bit. You get a little bit more gain by adding some compression here, which has that additive gain in it. And then you can set the EQ to your taste. For my taste, I like to put a low pass or a low cut on it. A low cut is actually a high pass, and that's how I do that. Next, we're going to plug in a line level source. An example of a line level source would be like a drum machine, a keyboard, or phone, a laptop, something like that. Now, my phone here doesn't have a headphone jack, so I'm going to use this lightning to headphone jack adapter. I'm going to plug that in there. And then to get from the headphone jack into the audio mixer, I'm going to use this cable here that goes from 1/8 inch to dual 1/4 inch. Now, this is a bad example here, but this ring here is red and that ring is white. When you're doing 1/4 inch cables, right is always red. So I'm going to plug the one that has red on it into the right channel of line 5/6. And I'm going to plug the headphone jack into the headphone output on my phone. So like I said, we're coming into 5/6, which is right here. So I'm going to turn on some music here for you to hear. Hit play. And as we raise the volume here, again, we can turn this all the way up to 0. And then there are some attenuation options. I'm just going to turn it back down if you're doing +4 or -10 or just to set up that gain. Now there's no EQ or anything. You can just pan it or send it to an effects channel. Again, I'm just going to turn it up. Then you should be able to hear the music. Now I'm going to turn it down. So that's how you set up a line level source. Now what happens if your line level source is at a stage or somewhere far away from you? This is what's known as an unbalanced cable. So what you need to do is you need to balance it, and you do that by using a transformer, otherwise known as a DI box. So instead of plugging these two 1/4 inch cables into the mixer, because you can't run this unbalanced cable longer than 15 feet. Generally for cables like this, I like to keep them under 6 feet, but you can plug it into a DI box here. I'm using the Radial Pro AV1. This DI box here is unique to most, where it'll do a mono sum. So it'll take the left and right channel, it'll sum it into one. Not all DI boxes are like that, but for this, I knew for this video that I only had one XLR slot left, so this will use that effectively. You can plug that into the XLR input. Now the DI box will bring that down to mic level for you, so we're going to turn this up to 0. Let's go turn the microphones down. And as you turn that up, you can see that we're getting music, and you should be able to hear that now. I'm going to turn that down now. So there we've connected 3 different microphones. One of them needed a CloudLifter, one of them needed phantom power, one of them could just go straight in, a DI box, and we've done line level inputs on this audio console. The next thing that's left with this audio console is how we handle the USB input. Since we're recording right now with the USB output, I can't send another one. I can't send an input back from my computer, and I'll explain why. When the USB comes into this console, it comes into this little box here. You have 2 options. One, you can turn the control room, so you can send the USB input to your headphones or control room, or you can send them to the main mix. When you select this to main mix button, what that does is it will send it out through the stereo channel. So this works well if you're playing like an iTunes playlist or a Spotify playlist off your laptop. You want to connect it to USB, bring it in here, and you can send it to the main mix. But with this button, when you press it down, it will kill the USB output that goes back to the laptop. So that's why you can't do it right now. Why it does that is it's trying to prevent having a feedback loop. So a feedback loop would be if you sent music to the console, it comes out through the stereo input, which goes to the computer, which would come back to the console, and then you get a feedback loop, which is that high piercing sound when the audio console can hear itself. So you don't want to do that. So for that reason, they choke it. So just keep that in mind. Again, like I mentioned before, just in terms of wrapping up the features of this mixer, the effects then comes down to the effects master, and then it will come out through the effects then to send it out to a reverb unit or something like that. And then you can bring that in through the line level source back in your mixer if you want to add that reverb to whatever you're doing. If you want to see current pricing or specs for this audio console, again, please check out the links in the description below. If you have any questions about this audio console or questions about how I set anything up here, please leave a comment in the comment section below. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.